How's it going? Happy Hack Fort, Tree Fort, all the things. If you're in the wrong room, this is your chance to get up and leave, but we're going to be talking about finding creative unicorns, the next generation of creative talent, and what that means. So this is your chance. All right. Is everyone in the right room? I think we'll get started. Okay. So, hello, my name's Kate Holgate. I am the executive creative director of an agency called Noble West. I am the co-founder of a creative incubator called Second Born, which we just launched about 3 weeks ago, which is pretty exciting. I'm a mediocre bike coach. I volunteer with NICA, and I'm a pretty good mom. In fact, my daughter is here sitting in the front row watching me today talk about the next generation of creative talent. So she's coming to watch her mom, hopefully not embarrass her too much. But anyways, thank you for having me. Really quickly, as I mentioned, I'm the executive creative director of Noble West, and we're a boutique marketing agency that specializes in the future of food and sustainability in agriculture. But I come from a background of working in the agency world for about 25 years. I've done everything under the sun, from toilet paper to pet insurance, you name it, I've marketed it. And I've led creative teams for a very long time. And as I just mentioned, we just launched a company called Second Born. It's not an agency per se, but it's more, I liken it to an ideation factory. We try to come into in-house brands and do ideation sprints with them, short-term sprints, but it's usually when a team needs a little bit of a little boost. We come in and we offer a bunch of packages and workshops, that sort of thing. But again, having been in this business for a very long time, I've worked with lots and lots of creatives. So what you can expect today, we're going to talk about this next generation. How many of you are employers versus just people who work in the industry or just here because you're curious? So if you're an employer, raise your hand, just so I have an idea. Okay. Who has hiring experience? Raise your hand. Awesome. Who is a creative? Just sitting and learning. Awesome. Okay, I love it. I love seeing all the creative hands being raised. We're going to talk about qualities of creatives, what I think is one of the biggest creative superpowers. We're going to talk about the truth behind certain characteristics of creatives, how to build a creative culture, and where we're going to find these mythical creatures, which I think a lot of you are probably sitting in this room right now. And then we're going to mix it up. Some forced fun. I promise it's not that scary, but we'll get started. So for those of you that raised your hands, I would love some participation here. Otherwise, I'm going to call on you, which is more dangerous. So what's the hardest thing about hiring right now? Does anyone want to volunteer? Information, who was hired? Okay, a lot of candidates applying. Go ahead, Chris.
Hard to suss out the creative work and where it originated. Did it originate with that person? Is it their work?
Okay, so she was saying, I don't know if you could hear, but she's saying to suss out whether it's their work or someone else's, or maybe a chat GPT, AI, a tool, a mock-up, whatever. What else? Anything else? Okay. Oh.
It's the creative side.
Mm-hmm. Finding the right job. Okay, that's great. So that's our next question. What's the hardest thing about looking for creative opportunities right now? Anyone? Go ahead, Chris.
They expect creatives to be able to do everything for the low price of a salary I was making 20 years ago.
That is true. I will say that there are some markets that have not caught up with the cost of living and what they're being paid. And now I've heard this a lot from different corporations that their teams are getting scaled back, but they're expected to deliver the same amount of work just because of the introduction of, dare I say, AI. How many times have you, every time you say AI at this conference, if you drink, we'd all not be walking out of here. So I'm gonna leave that to a minimum. Any other things that's hard? Go ahead.
An expectation that in their specific industry, you must have experience of that industry, which is not always relevant as a creative.
Ooh, I love it. We're gonna get into some good content about that. Go ahead.
Job boards aren't doing a very good job with their postings to begin with.
Okay, so if you couldn't hear that, she said job boards are not great at describing what we need. Go ahead.
You can have all the boxes checked, and in theory, be the right person. But then when you get into it, it doesn't. It's like when it gets to the real world, doesn't always work.
Totally true, Gus. Thank you. Anything else before I keep going? All right. Well, I'm going to start with a little story about how I started my career. Who's seen Mad Men? Is anyone familiar with Mad Men? Okay. It's a story about the good old days of advertising on Madison Avenue in New York back in the 50s. I like to say that I'm like Don Draper, but without the affairs and the drinking in the middle of the day. I'm the female version. But when I started my career, I walked into an agency, and I was dressed like I was going to go have an interview at a place like Micron. I was 22, I just graduated from college, thought I knew everything. I knew nothing. And I walked into an agency, and I kind of fell into the agency world. I got very lucky in that I just fell into an amazing career path. But I had my, those of you that are the same vintage as myself, so I graduated in the 90s. I had this sheath dress from like Ann Taylor. I had nylons on, I'm pretty sure, pumps, a giant portfolio bag, a scarf around my neck, and I walk into this agency, and there's all these middle-aged white men playing hacky sack and listening to loud music. And they're like, who are you? And I'm like, hello, I'm here for an interview today. At the time, so I spent almost 2 decades at Stoltz Marketing Group, a well-known agency in town. I'm here to meet with Ken Stoltz. They're like, hey, Ken, there's someone here to meet you. And he comes in, he's like, who are you? I said, well, we arranged an interview today. And he's like, okay, cool, come on in. He had flip-flops on. And so I like stomp over with my giant portfolio bag. And I sat down. I started going through all the projects that actually make no sense in the real world. Like, here's the book cover I designed for a fake novel. Here's a PSA poster for, why not to smoke. And I mean, it wasn't all not relevant, but what really blew their mind is when I sat down, I had learned to code a website. And I joke that it was because I could make something move on a screen that got my foot in the door. So I designed a fake website for HTO water skis because I love to water ski. And I had this animation that I did in Flash. Does anyone remember the Flash technology? So I had this little water skier moving across the screen. I mean, first of all, it's kind of cheesy, but whatever, it impressed them. And Ken goes, hey, Ron, get over here. And this guy comes over, and they're looking at the computer, and he's like, you did that? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay. And then we started talking about a real job. And so I always say I fell into it. I figured out how to use technology to my advantage, and I had a creative mind, and it got me in the door. So I think about my first few months, and it was a definite sink or swim. Like I said, I thought I knew everything coming out of college. I knew nothing. I don't even think I had a computer for like the first 3 weeks. I think they were like, and so it wasn't the day and age that is now where there was like training and onboarding. It was truly just taking initiative and like figuring things out. But what I will say is that creative industries are changing way faster than some of our hiring practices. I think that AI is accelerating output, but not necessarily imagination or the people that you need behind the AI to do the work. This is a really fascinating statistic to me, that Gen Z now averages only 1.8 years in a role in tech and creative. For any of you employers, what's the most expensive part about running a business? Hiring and turnover. That's exactly right. So we're seeing this gap. Like, why are people leaving? Why aren't they not staying at roles? I worked somewhere for 20 years, and I had someone ask me once, they said, well, you're not a baby boomer. I'm like, thank God you don't think I'm a baby boomer, thank you. And you're not of like an Asian culture where they really believe in staying somewhere for a really long time. And I was like, I don't know if you're supposed to say that anymore, but you're right. However, you see a lot of burnout now. I think there's a lot of low engagement, and that the expectations of this next generation of creatives that we're looking to bring value to our companies, it's very different. So nowadays, this is what's more expected. You think about onboarding. I don't remember the statistic behind this, but they say if you have a positive onboarding experience, you're probably going to stay at a company a lot longer. Training is really important. Career pathing, actually showing somewhere where they can go after they start a role. Purpose. I see a lot of candidates coming in now that actually don't care they care about the money part, but they're actually wanting to know why they're going to work at this company. Like, what's my why behind joining this this career or this company, and then culture is such a big part of it. And so I think about all these factors, and that if you started your career about the time I did, we didn't have any of this. It was just sort of a, like I said, sink or swim situation. And so I think my hot take is that creativity is not going away. I mean, there's all this stuff about AI is going to take our jobs, and as creatives, it's changed our jobs. Well, you're right. It's definitely evolving very quickly. But it's an essential part of the future of commerce, right? Innovation doesn't happen without creativity. So in my world, I think one of the most important things is for us to be finding what I'm calling creative unicorns, and I'll explain that in a moment. I feel like it's a very cliche to say, oh, I'm looking for my unicorn. But I do believe with technology now, we're seeing a different breed of creatives coming in that aren't necessarily the master of their craft. They actually want to learn other tools, and they're good at solving problems. So what I see now is an art director can actually come up with words. I mean, it's hard because I'm an art director and I understand that. And copywriters can now generate images that share an idea or a style or a storyboard. So you're seeing this like hybrid of creatives happening because we have these amazing tools at our fingertips. But it doesn't mean that it's going to replace the craft or the artwork. I really believe in like doing it yourself. But when it comes to prototyping ideas or learning new tools and technology, I just had an art director, he just built an entire app. So I just think about how there's this hybrid now. So the qualities, these are some of the qualities I look for in creatives. The first one is, are they curious? Instead of asking what or how, they're asking why and what if. I think curiosity is super important because, as we have all seen, the industry keeps evolving so quickly. Also, they need to be lifelong learners. I mean, maybe not in this style, but I think about how the industry has changed so much in even just 20 years, the 25 years I've been in it, that if you're not learning the tools and technology, you want to see that initiative. You can have creativity, but what I love about being in marketing is you learn something new every day. There's not a single day that's the same. And I think that's an incredibly important skill when you're interviewing or if you're creative interviewing for a job. Talk about what you've learned outside of just your one craft. When I'm talking to an art director, I want to hear that they learned something about user experience, or they're doing that. I want to hear that they've learned to take photography. Maybe they're illustrating. Maybe they've found an interest in animation. But again, we have all these tools to teach ourselves new skills, and so we were looking for that kind of Swiss Army knife of talent, and I think you have to be a learner to do that. Okay, let's talk about AI. I'm sorry, I have to do it. This is a really funny video. I'm hoping the sound works, but if you think about when the internet was invented in 1987, fast forward to 1994, and this is a segment from the Today Show. Again, if you're in my vintage, I grew up with the Today Show and Katie Couric. And this is them talking about this thing called the internet. So I'm going to play it.
Back to 56 past, I wasn't prepared to translate that as I was doing that little tease.
Oh, that's
that little
right.
mark with the A and then the ring around it.
At.
See, that's what I said. Katie said she thought it was about.
Yeah. Oh.
But I'd never heard it.
Around
I'd never heard it
about.
said. I'd always seen the mark, but never heard
Yeah.
it said. And then it sounded stupid when I said it. Violence at NBC.
I heard be around big or fight up in the lunchroom the other
See,
week.
there it is. Violence at NBC. GE com. I mean,
Well, Allison should know.
what
do you
is
say to that,
internet
Allison?
anyway?
Internet is that
Massive computer network.
the one that's becoming really big now.
What do you mean? That's big. Wait, how does one? What do you write to it like mail?
No, a lot of people use it and communicate. I guess they can communicate with NBC writers and producers. Allison, can you explain what internet is?
No, she can't say anything in 10 seconds or less.
Oh, Allison will be in the studio shortly.
What is
What
it?
does it mean?
It's a giant computer network made up of started from.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell us what this was.
It's like
You've been
a
looking in the
computer
dictionary.
billboard.
It's not an. It's a computer billboard, but it's
Right.
nationwide, and it's several universities and everything all joined together. And
Right.
And others can access it.
Right.
And it's getting bigger and bigger all the time.
It
Just
came
great.
in really handy during the quake. A lot of people, that's how they were communicating out to tell family and loved ones they were okay because all the phone lines were down.
I was telling Katie, and I've been
But you don't
talking.
need a phone line to operate internet?
No.
All right, so I think my point is here is, let's see if I can get out of this now.
Back now at 56 past. I wasn't prepared to.
Sorry, let me restart this. You can see my messy desktop. All right, so the internet, that wasn't that long ago. And people are like, what is this thing? What is going to happen to us? Well, guess what? It kind of changed the world. But look at us sitting here with jobs and careers and the world story. Does anyone remember Y2K? When it turned 2000, they're like, stock your pantry with water. The internet's going to blow up the world, so everyone be careful. So I think when I think about AI, I think about the next generation of creatives will know how to use AI to their advantage. It is not going to take the jobs. What you need to do, though, is learn how to use it to make you better at your job. So I think about what we use AI for. Think about when you're doing research. Maybe you do 25 interviews. You record it. You get the transcripts. AI can now find patterns. And what used to take, a week's worth of time, it can assess it very quickly and find patterns. I think about how I'll never build a timeline by hand again. Or I use it for, our CEO jokes that she uses it to make her email sound friendlier. But you think about the time you're saving in between the kind of medial tasks, and with that time, what you can do with bigger ideas. Think about how quickly you can prototype ideas. So now I actually want to see double the amount of ideas that are prototyped before you start refining. So I really truly think that the next generation of creatives, it is imperative that you know how to use AI to make you better at your job. Also, I think this is kind of funny, that ugly picture right there. I actually asked ChatGPT to create an image of herself, and that's what she did, and I think it's pretty. I was like, I don't like it, but I put it in here anyways. Okay, so another skill I always look for is just critical thinking. Again, if you are no longer having to be, the jack of all trades, master of none, that used to be a bad thing. I'm like, no, actually, now I think if you have a lot of skills, and sure, have a craft, but if you have critical thinking skills and you're looking at how to solve problems, to me, creatives are solving problems because they're empathetic, and we'll get to that in a moment. But think about how important critical thinking is to connect all the dots, to know how to use AI to use it to your advantage, or how you communicate a concept to a group of people that are trying to solve a problem. Critical thinking is so important. I think soft skills are incredibly important too. Well, first of all, people still do business with people at the end of the day. Especially in the agency world, it's very relationship driven. Again, I haven't met a single client where I've gone on a production and they're like, I don't want to be there on set. I don't really like collaborating. I think I'd rather sit in my office than be on a really cool set working with really fun people. I have yet to hear that. People want to have that human connection, that experience. So robots can't take that away from us. But also, your idea is great. It's only as good as how you can sell it. So that's another piece. I think if you can get really great at presenting, carrying a conversation, making, again, that authentic human connection, your ideas as a creative are going to go way farther. And then resilience and range and flexibility. So when I'm talking to creatives, I want to know what their range is. Again, this industry evolves so quickly that shows if they're resilient to change. If you have a really bold idea, guess how many times you're going to be told no before you get to see it come to life. So that's where resilience comes in too. I just think that this is one of the most important aspects of being a creative nowadays, is how to show that resilience through change, adaptability, and then also just making sure that you keep going, because guess what? There's always more ideas. Even when we get shot down a bunch, and it's hard as creatives because we get so close to our little babies, our little darlings, that resilience is really key to making it. And then the growth mindset, again, going back to all the skills that you can learn now. Some people might say, nah, that's not really your lane. I disagree. Sure, we all have job roles and responsibilities, but when I see someone taking initiative to learn something to help a company out, I think that's incredible, and I think that growth mindset is really important. And then this idea behind passion. And nobody knows it better than Ted Lasso, but I look for candidates that actually believe in what they're doing. So if you can articulate or ask someone, like, why are you even in this industry? I personally believe, people are like, oh, marketing. Yes, we get actually bombarded with a lot of crap every day. There's a lot of bad marketing out there. But I think when you know an audience and you know what drives them to action and you're an empathetic human being and you're trying to make change, I think communications is critical for that. And I truly believe we can make change. I think creatives that know they can make change are very powerful because they're going to keep doing their best to be the best version of themselves to try to make this change. So I think passion is, again, a characteristic of the creative unicorn that I'm always looking for. Okay, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to look at some well-known creatives over the history of time. I mean, Mona Lisa might have been a creative, but we know who painted her, right? Who's this guy on the your right? Who's that guy? Nope, you're close. They all kind of look the same. Yes, Steven Spielberg. Good job. Okay. Got Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, then we've got this guy. Who's this? He's like a gazillionaire now because of his creativity. How about this person? Billie Eilish. Look, everyone knew Billie Eilish. I love it. And I like to show this person as one of our creative directors. Chrissy Hoskins, total creative genius. And she gave me permission to talk about this, by the way. Okay, what is one thing all these people have in common? Does anyone know? All these people. You're gonna wait for it? Neurodivergent, okay? We're gonna talk about neurodivergency and how it is, in my mind, one of the biggest creative superpowers out there.
How do you define neurodivergent?
It's a wide spectrum, and I'm glad you're getting there because we all know that I just used one statistic. So neurodivergent is there's a large spectrum. It can be everything from anything that happens mentally, of course, but I'm gonna go just on the most common, which is ADHD. So we'll get there in a second. But right now, a statistic by a marketing driver, and then Google did a study on this too, that 48% of creatives identify themselves as neurodivergent. And right now, there are 22 million diagnosed adult Americans with ADHD, okay? In fact, I think, and again, it's a wide spectrum. But what I want to talk about is what some characteristics are of neurodivergent people and why this is important to realize if you're either a creative or your employer that's looking for creative talent. So neurodivergent people connect unrelated ideas. They're really good at problem solving. They're less constrained. They can produce more original or unconventional concepts. They have very strong pattern recognition. They challenge norms. They use divergent thinking, which means more ideas. And they have a great sensitivity to emotion or detail. Because at the end of the day, we're not always solving problems for ourselves. We're usually solving it for another audience, right? So you have to have a lot of empathy. We are describing the perfect combination of the creative individual right now. This is what we look for when we're looking at creative talent. So in my mind, as either creatives that are in this world or people who are hiring creative talent, it's important to be aware, because I've managed a lot of creatives over my time, and I will tell you that 50%, almost 50% statistic is pretty spot on. So I think there's ways to build environments where people can harness it as their superpower, because I really do think it's a special gift. So let's talk about some truths around creatives. Spoiler alert, number one. Creativity is not linear. You do not go from point A to point B and have your solution. It never works that way. Number two, creatives are not always great at following process. I have no idea why I picked this GIF, but when I typed in process, it came up, and I just thought it was so odd and funny. But he looks like he kind of has a process going on. But I will tell you that I'm the first to admit, even as a manager right now, I'm not the best at following process. Like, creativity is a little bit messy, but I think you have to have structure. But I also think you have to have the flexibility to understand that it's not a point A to point B. Processes are important, but they're not everything. Another way I'll say that this really comes to fruition is most creatives perform very well under pressure. Even if you give the longest deadline ever, they're probably gonna procrastinate till like the night before to finish it. And I actually know that it's gonna, it's all about managing expectations, of course, but that's a great example of where, they're not always great at process of like how it's supposed to be. And maybe I did finish this presentation last night, so. Number 3, creativity doesn't happen between the hours of 9 and 5. So who's enjoying all the art here this weekend? How about the music? I love this. This was a Tree Fort miracle. My daughter actually asked me if I wanted to go see a show with her this week, and I will tell you that music, art, travel. Sorry, I wish I had a clicker right now. Having hobbies outside of the office. Even getting out and getting fresh air. Creativity, you are not getting your best ideas by sitting in an office chained to your desk for 60 hours a week. You have to be inspired. And I joke, this is our one of our graphic designers, Aaron. We went on a mountain bike ride recently, and I was telling him, I was like, it's so weird, when I'm on a trail, that's when my best ideas happen. And again, there's science behind when your brain's not like hyper-focused on the one thing that, it percolates for a little bit, and then that's when I like literally dictate into my phone all day long when I'm on a trail. But he's like, oh my God, me too. And I really think it's important to know, especially when you're trying to build a creative environment, that to understand that it doesn't happen between 9 to 5. There's all sorts of places to gain inspiration. If we're not out experiencing life, how are we supposed to be empathetic to other human beings and solve problems for them? So I think it's really important that we give space for people to explore, to be inspired, to go learn things about other groups of people that are not ourselves. And I think it's really important that we embrace failure. I have not done that before, but I think when you're looking to be innovative, one of the best things you can do is have a safe space for people to fail and learn from it. And so I think creatives are really good at that. Again, you're told no a lot, and you have to iterate and figure it out, crack the nut. There's always more ideas. Honestly, deadlines are probably what make us make a decision at the end of the day. Otherwise, we'd ideate all day long. But I think this idea of being able to fail forward is really important. And number 5, teamwork makes dream work. I will say that I have never been on a creative team where someone had the one hero idea, ever. I mean, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. Do you think he was the sole person that worked on that? Nope. He had people testing it out, giving him feedback. He had probably a team right behind him helping him with that invention. But I truly believe that when I think about creative talent, creatives that can work really well on a team, they take feedback really well, they're supportive to each other. We're usually all trying to hit the same deadline. We're all trying to solve the same problem. And so I think teamwork is absolutely essential. You can be an individual contributor still, but to have that teamwork mentality, it's really important. Again, kind of expected and obvious, but I really stress it a lot. In fact, sometimes I think it's helpful when people talk about, if you ask about a project, tell me how you got to this, when they mention the rest of their team on it. I think that's really important to show that they're not saying, oh, this was all me, because it's really all you, but to talk about how you worked with others, because we collaborate. So building this creative culture. So I think if you think about neurodivergency, just creatives in general, how can we build cultures that support creatives and make it the best environment for them to do their best work? So one of the things I like to reframe is what does productivity look like exactly? So, and this isn't just actually neurodivergent. I feel like a lot of creatives are this way, but if you prefer to work with bursts and sprints, have like deep hyper focus, but then recovery time, how can we make this more accessible in our own working environments? Maybe that means you do flexible working blocks. Normalize thinking time. I let my creatives block out a couple hours on their calendar. I don't let them. I give them, I guess, I try to actually model it myself, but I want them to have that time to really focus and be able to have thinking time. Okay, so if we think about how people like bursts and sprints, why don't we make more condensed milestone check-ins. So instead of having this big, long deadline, have more frequent check-ins and have so that they know that they're performing, again, if you're going to procrastinate, make sure you do more frequent check-ins, and that can really help with productivity. I think measuring impact over busyness, again, I don't care if you're sitting at your desk from 9 to 5, honestly. Sure, there's important things if there's meetings or whatever that you might have to, but I think I want to see what the kind of work you're producing. I don't care how long it took. If it took you half as much time, amazing. I hope you're out taking a mountain bike ride and doing more thinking. But I think that's really important. Less rigid step-by-step processes, and then allowing for rapid prototyping and iteration. Again, when it comes to AI, I think that's one of the tools we have now is you can prototype very quickly. If you wanted to make a video, you used to have to hire the voiceover artist to hear the thing. And now you can actually say, I want to hear a male voice and a female voice. Let's prototype it. I want it to sound like, Scarlett Johansson. And you can get a quick prototype and then hire the real artist to sound like that, right? I'm not saying I truly believe in doing the real artwork yourself, whatever that might be, music, whatever it is. But you can prototype quickly and see if it's going to work. Okay. Kill ambiguity, but keep creative freedom. So, creatives often struggle with vague expectations, shifting feedback, unclear success metrics. And this can be on the client side too. I don't know if any of you are creatives, but have you ever been told, I don't like that shade of blue, and my wife doesn't like it, but I can't tell you why. So I like to say that, again, being open to feedback is important, understanding how to get the best sort of feedback from the person that's given it to you. But also, I think creatives really thrive with clear boundaries and defined outcomes. So instead of even telling them the solution, asking questions, giving them opportunity to have a solve themselves, have room to explore, give them the time to explore the right direction. And then again, that whole idea of give them the safety to fail. You have to pick your battles. I know we're in a capitalist society and we have to make money at the end of the day. However, there are areas you can make it safe for people to fail, that they can learn, because it's probably not going to get you fired by your client at the end of the day, but making sure that they know that they can experiment, because that failure is how we get to innovation at the end of the day. Okay, redesigning feedback loops. We just talked about feedback. I think moving from reactive to structured feedback is important. I like to give it both verbally and then in writing because, again, depending on the learning behavior of the individual, it's important to have both. Separating what's working from not working, what's not working. This is my favorite framework. Has anyone heard of the I like, I wish, what if framework? Can you raise your hand if you've heard of this? Oh my God, if you take anything away, use this for feedback. So you start with, if you're giving someone feedback, it could be a peer with a critique, you could be on the client side, you could be an employer giving some feedback to someone. You start by saying, I like this. So I think about if I'm telling an art director, oh God, I love this design. It feels really on brand. You've done a great job following the typography style. The photos have the right content in them. However, I wish it felt a little warmer. So what it does, it forces you to articulate the why behind your feedback in the first place. And then the what if is just suggestions. So you could say, God, I wish it was a little bit warmer. What if we explored a different style of photography that has the same composition, because I really like but we put a warmer tone on it. So you're giving some suggestions, not giving them the answer necessarily, but giving suggestions. That is one of the best ways to give feedback. And if they argue with you, I also call the F scale. You have to go, okay, for F scale 1 to 10, I won't say what F means, but you get the idea. Is it a 1 to 10? If someone's always a 10, they have some work to do, which means that they need to figure out how to be a little more flexible, listen to feedback. If they're a 1, it means they need to have a little more opinion. So when you're having a debate, I like to do the F scale and then use the I like, I wish, what if. Your idea is not going away. You're just moving it aside for a second and trying some other things. So that's a great tool. And then avoid pile-on meetings with 6 opinions flying. I think that's terrible for creatives. It makes me panic and start sweating when I experience it myself. So, and then again, make safety a non-negotiable. How many times have you been in a meeting with this woman? I have. Doesn't make you feel very safe. But I do think that making it a safe environment to fail is really important. So this is an interesting stat. And this is more specific to my industry. Again, I'm in marketing. And so only 13% of brand marketers and creatives view their companies as risk-friendly. Ooh, that's a low number. But brands that embrace bold, creative risk-taking generate 4 times higher profit margins because it hasn't been done before. So I think that's a really good reminder that we have to create safe environments to do the best, the biggest, boldest creative ideas. Because psychological safety is the #1 predictor of high-performing teams. Okay, where do we find these these mythical creatures? Well, first of all, look at what Sora did. She did not do a very good job with our Capitol building. It's okay. But I do think there's an incredible city of talent right where we are right now. Our company grew 45% last year, so I have had to hire about, we're still small, but 10 people in less than 6 months is a lot of people. Boise has incredible creative talent, incredible. But what else is kind of neat is that because of technology, our world has gotten smaller, and there's incredible creative talent now that you have access to across the world. So what our activity at the end here is we're going to mix it up. I'm hoping you each meet a new creative person today, which we'll get there. But again, you're only as powerful as your network, because people like to do business with people. And warm intros go a long way. And again, in this day and age of AI, if you're creative looking for a new opportunity, it's true. AI, they're scanning those resumes. I think knowing more people that can warmly introduce you to someone else is probably your #1 tool to find the next creative opportunity. And I encourage employers also to think through that lens. Okay, so this is how I feel after any presentation at this length. I want to just first ask, are there any questions that anyone has about all this unsolicited advice I just gave you? Anyone? Oh my gosh, are you guys saying you're ready for the forced funnel? Okay. All right. It's going to make everyone super uncomfortable. Okay, we're going to mix it up a little bit. This is from last night. We're going to do a little pair and share. And this is the rules. You can't be with someone you know. Oh no. We're going to be doing like creative speed dating right now. Okay, I want you to find someone near you. Pair up with them. We're going to do this for about 10 minutes. And this is just expanding our network of knowing amazing creatives and amazing people in our community, because we have an awesome creative community here in Boise. So I want you to find someone near you. And these are the questions you're going to ask each other. And I hope you each learn something new that you can apply moving forward. Well, what was your first concert? I'll go first. Mine was MC Hammer. I had a choice between New Kids on the Block and MC Hammer for Christmas. And we of course, picked Hammer because I had an awesome pair of pants I could wear to it. And I could do the Running Man very well. Also, this is a great icebreaker for any situation with anyone, because A, it tells your vintage typically. Also, it's really funny, the answers you'll get. What kind of environment do you do your best work in? What makes you leave a company? What makes you stay at a company? What are you curious about right now? And then, you know what? What makes you happy? It doesn't even have to be work-related. I personally feel like I have the best job ever, but there's a lot of other things in life, obviously, that make you happy. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes. How are we doing on time? I don't have a way to check. Where are we? All right, we are going to do this in 3 minutes. Find someone and pick a few different questions and go. Go. Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay, did everyone learn something new about someone they just met? Did everyone learn something? Are y'all going to connect somehow? I mean, you don't have to touch phones yet, but maybe like on LinkedIn. Connect on LinkedIn, perhaps. Well, that's the thing, is that we live in a really amazing creative community. I hope you all got to expand your horizons today. I'm joking that let's go. I will not be doing this in a mosh pit, but it's going to be fun to go watch some music, look at some art. But thank you so much for having me today. I hope you, again, learned something new about this next generation of creatives. If you ever want to get a hold of me, here's my information. Call, text, message me on LinkedIn. I'm an open book. Again, I have lots of unsolicited advice to give people from how I've failed forward over the years, but just really appreciate all of you today, and just never forget how important creativity is. So thank you so much. Thanks.